Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I hope my audio is alright. Someone is outside jackhammering, and I've hoped it would stop, but it just hasn't. So if you hear that, I don't know if you can, I'm sorry, but it is what it is today. I have a couple of reviews I gotta finish up, and the first one that I wanted to do, way overdue, I've got a lot of overdue reviews to do today, is the Quietcarry Drift. Now, the Drift is one of the actual kind of older folder models within Quietcarry's lineup, the way I perceive it, but it's gotten overhauled because originally the Drift had a hole for deployment, and as you can see, now it has studs. I want to thank Quietcarry because they sent me this knife. They had sent me some stuff for giveaways, and I purchased my Waypoint, this knife I've had for quite a while, and I reviewed it, and I've become friends with the guy over at Quietcarry, and at least on social media. I've never met him, but he sent me this one just for me to have and to review, and I appreciate it because it's a knife I would have bought if he hadn't sent it to me, and it means a lot that he kind of gave it to me as a gift. But yeah, so I've been really, for a long time, I had wanted to check this knife out. And then I've been really excited ever since I got it. And this has been a knife that I've carried a ton. I've kind of fallen out of my fitness and diet kick, but when I was getting a lot of cardio in, which I need to get back on the train, but when I was getting a lot of cardio in, this was one of the most common knives for me to carry for a couple of reasons. But first and foremost, this is a waterproof knife, essentially. Just like the Waypoint, its brother, its kind of crowning feature, in my opinion, is that its construction is totally waterproof, or at least water resistant. I should preface everything I'm going to say by saying the amount of waterproofness testing I did on the Waypoint and have done over time is kind of astounding. So that knife has been in salt water, in fresh water, in tap water, in murky water, in stream water, in any kind of water that I pass by when I have one of these knives in my pocket. If it's not totally inconvenient to do so, I will get it wet and just put it back in my pocket because I just want to see if I can get them to rust. On the Waypoint, this one, the only rust I've ever been able to find on it has been inside the bearing track. When I took it apart one time, there was a little bit of corrosion. It was kind of green, gunky stuff. I don't think it was actual rust on the metal itself. I think it was stuff that had gotten in there. And so with the Drift, I've been doing the same thing. It's gotten insanely sweaty in my pocket a bunch of times. It's been in salt water, it's been in fresh water, it's been in tap water, it's been in all the kinds of water that I can foreseeably put it in, and it's just been put back in my pocket wet every single time, and there has been no rust on it whatsoever. So if you're looking for a corrosion-proof knife, Quietcarry, at the moment, I think is the preeminent, the ultimate example of getting a good, usable, wonderful pocket knife that even if it wasn't corrosion resistant would still be fantastic, but happens to also be incredibly corrosion resistant and on a production scale. They are also the only company that I'm aware of that at the moment is actively using Vanex Super Clean as the steel. So you'll see marked on here, there, Vanex. Vanex is a unique steel in the marketplace. I hope that it becomes more and more prevalent, but at the moment it is still relatively few and far between. Not many people are using it. I know there's some buzz around it, so I hope to see that change, but I have 3 knives in it because I have both of these, and I have a Steingraber Performance Knives Shark in Vanex as well. I love the steel. In essence, it is comparable, slightly below, but comparable to steels like M390 in terms of edge retention, while being totally corrosion resistant. It's going to be a little bit lower on the toughness scale, although it ranks okay on toughness. A lot of people compare it to steels like LC200N. LC200N basically goes the opposite way. Instead of having a little more edge retention, it has a little more toughness. Still okay edge retention, just like this has okay toughness, but I prefer this to LC200N because I benefit more from edge retention on a folder like this than I do from toughness. So that's the way I see it. Anyway, let's go ahead and start talking about this knife, kind of going through ergos, carry, cutting, and action, all of my typical things, and yeah, we'll go from there. I will link down below, by the way, to Quietcarry Knives. Check them out if you haven't before. I'll have their Instagram and their site and all that down there. So this version is the Knurled Titanium version. You can see this show side scale has this texture all over it. I love that. This is the exact version that I wanted, so I love that this is the one that was sent to me. You're going to see on the lock side, it's kind of a stone washed finish. We've got a wire deep carry clip, comes all the way to the butt end of the knife. I love that. Vanex, as we mentioned, and this version again has thumb studs. This version also got a revised detent along with the thumb studs, from what I understand. I've never held the previous version. I've heard this one has a stiffer detent, and I like that and appreciate it. So let's start with ergos. Ergonomically, this knife for my hands is bordering on perfect. It's just super, super comfortable in hand. I've got all 4 fingers on it back here, just barely all 4, but you've got this forward choil, which makes it a dream. I love usable forward finger choils like this. A little bit of jimping up here on the spine, but it's not too aggressive. When I'm in the choil, I tend to reach up past it anyways. The jimping doesn't bother me even when I am on it, and it's just very, very comfortable in a saber grip or a hammer grip, in the choil or not in the choil. It's comfortable either way. Draw cut, also very comfortable, totally works. Reverse grip, very, very comfortable, totally works. Reverse grip draw cut, totally works. So it's comfortable in all 4 major orientations that I can put the knife in my hand, and I like that. I love that it fits my hand so well. There's no hot spots. The wire clip feels great in hand. It's not poking or prodding me. There's nothing sharp on the knife that's trying to stab me while I'm using it. It's just good ergonomics, and it's a fairly simple profile. It does have curves in it, and you can see there's kind of a defined finger groove here, and obviously the choil up here. So the fact that it still fits my hand so well while having some shaping on the handle and not just being overly simple is really nice. So yeah, ergos are a big win for me on this knife. I really like it ergonomically. Let's talk carry next, because carry is probably, it's one of, I have a lot of favorite things about this knife. Carry is one of them. This knife is supremely thin, very, very thin in this direction, right? And that is one of the biggest ways that a knife can be comfortable in pocket, is if it's thin in that direction, in my opinion. Part of why I've loved the Waypoint so much is because it's so thin, so small in pocket. This has a very similar feel. It's also very lightweight. There's a lot of internal milling. You'll see, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there's major pockets milled out on both sides of this, each side of the scales. And it's just, for a titanium frame lock, quite light. It feels in pocket very slim. The carry is fantastic with this clip, because wire clips are personally my favorite. They don't snag on anything. They don't gouge leather or paint as you're walking by things. They're comfortable in and out of pocket. They have plenty of retention. They look unassuming. I love deep carry wire pocket clips. They're my favorite. So this knife is just an absolute dream for me in pocket. I carry it most of the time, frankly, as a secondary, because it's small enough and light enough and slim enough that I can get away with that. So back left pocket, this knife is super, super comfortable. It's also been a primary carry a number of times, especially if I'm like going to the beach. I've got board short, like hybrid swim short things that have like actual pockets that I wear most of the time these days. I even wear them sometimes not to the beach. And if I'm going somewhere where I think I may be getting wet, like the beach, then this is the knife that's in my pocket, and it's fantastic for it. So I love that. Carries like a dream. Let's talk action. So action on this guy, it's not like drop shutty or fidgety in the sense that I typically like, but it has kind of a redeeming quality in the sense that the detent is really well tuned, really well dialed. So for a thumb flick, it's just nice and poppy. The knife pops out. I felt the same thing on the Waypoint. It also, having studs on both sides, oh, I stopped it with this finger, my bad. It can easily be middle finger flicked, which is very nice. It's always a challenge showing it to the camera. But yeah, the fact that I can reverse flick it, the fact that it thumb flicks so well and such a positive tick, it's very nice. You'll see though, it's certainly not drop shutty, nor is it really trying to be, in my opinion. Being so focused on corrosion resistance and the construction of this knife, I think it makes sense that it's not also trying to be the most fidgety thing. They've struck a good balance, in my opinion, I guess, of being so thin, so light, so comfortable, so usable, so corrosion resistant, and yeah, it's come together well. But fidgety isn't a thing that this knife is, and I forgive it because I do see it as being so fantastic in every other way, and because at least deploying it is a lot of fun, even if closing it isn't. But it's smooth, it's glassy all the way along. I do believe, I keep trying to peek in here, this does run on washers. I'm almost certain. It does look like washers to me. Yeah, I'm 98% certain this runs on washers, and it feels like it. It feels like a smooth washer knife, not like a drop shutty bearing knife. But even like the Waypoint runs, I thought it was on bearings, isn't it? Now I feel like I'm going crazy. It's been a long time since I've taken this knife apart. Maybe it's on washers too. Thought it was on bearings. I don't know. They both feel glassy and smooth. They're not really going for drop shutty, I guess is what I'm getting at. Anyway, so action is okay, but it's not anything like spectacular or special. That means we've done carry, action, and ergos. We need to do cutting. This grind is phenomenal. You can see the satin is really shiny too. You can see my camera and the reflection there. Really, really great grind. Nice and tall, very tall flat grind. Very thin behind the edge because we're starting with a nice thin stock. There's no point in my mind for a really thick stock on this knife. It is benefited across the board from being a thin stock. Keeps the weight down, keeps the blade slicey, and this knife is an absolute slicing dream. I've used this knife for a lot of cardboard, like a lot. I've used it for some rope. I've used it for, I had to cut, there was like, I don't know what, on an easy up, there's like the material that sometimes ties around the bag, kind of like what you'd tie up a tent with. At the beach one time I had to cut through, there was like a knot that could not come undone. I had to tie the binding on that. I've cut zip ties with it. I've cut a bunch of apples with it, like literally probably at least 5, maybe more apples with this knife. On one of my trips to Utah, in fact, I've had this knife for a long time because that was like 2 months ago now, I think. The kitchen knives were atrocious, and I just left this in the kitchen most of the time, up where it was out of reach from the kids. But my daughter eats an apple every single day, and I used it to peel and slice the apple each day there on the trip because the knives in the drawer there were garbage. I also cut an apple for her at the beach with it. I mean, I've cut quite a few apples with it. This slices like a good kitchen knife. The fact that it's thin behind the edge and it's thin stock means that it slices well through stuff like that, and I love it in that way. Yeah, it's just been a cutting dream. The thinness, the sliciness, the edge that came on it is fantastic, and it's still holding it really well after all the use that I've put it through. It's great. I really, really like this blade. It works really, really well. So honestly, cutting is fantastic, carry is fantastic, ergos are fantastic, and action is pretty good. But you have the element of this being a rust-proof knife. I think it's an absolute winner. The Waypoint was one of my favorite knives for a long time. Still is, to be fair. I love the Waypoint. I just adore the way this knife functions and carries, and it's phenomenal. All the things that I raved about it are still true, but the Drift, to me, is the better choice. I like the Drift even better. It just, maybe it's the ergos and the height of the blade and the way that it slices just that little bit better because of this cutting profile, or I don't know. It fills my hand a little bit differently because the Waypoint is a skinnier handle profile. But yeah, the Drift, I just like it better than the Waypoint, which is saying a lot because I love the Waypoint. And oftentimes I actually like liner locks more than frame locks, but this one is a frame lock that's not sensitive at all. I don't have to worry about where I'm putting my hand to engage with the lock or anything like that. It's functionally such a good knife, and it's one of the best, like, take anywhere, use for anything within a certain scope of reason, right, knives that I've ever had. It's so usable, so approachable, and it just works so well. And so you add all that to the element that I don't have to worry about it getting wet or rusting or anything like that. It opens this whole use case that it just makes it so convenient to take anywhere when it's like, we're going for a boat ride around the harbor. Am I going to get wet? Probably not. But if I do, I'd rather have it be this knife that's in my pocket than something else that is prone to rusting and corrosion, right? Even just being like in humid environments or like in salty places, like having it in my shorts while I'm running where I'm sweating like crazy, that can rust other knives. And this, to not have to worry about it, is so nice. So yeah, I love it. It's a home run in my opinion. I can't recommend enough this knife. And yeah, I already loved the Waypoint. To some people, this may be more appealing because of its profile or whatever. They're both fantastic knives, but absolutely, I prefer the Drift even over the Waypoint, which is just saying a lot. So there you have it. Again, Quietcarry will be linked down below. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.